Onision, one of the most controversial, if not the most controversial YouTuber in internet history. You could spend years watching content and consuming information about this man, and even then you would still not know the full extent and story to do with Onision. It's a story that's completely unraveled over the last 15 plus years, and in 2025, Onision is known as, well, as a lot of different things that I'll allow you to describe in the comment section yourself. But in particular, with the perception of Onision in 2024, something I noticed was this title here. Onision, the deranged man who made a YouTube cult. Now, this description is something that can be applied to a lot of famous people, celebrities, YouTubers, who are very controversial in the public eye, yet at the same time may have a very dedicated fan base. And that all leads to descriptions such as cults, where fandoms are now being described as the modern version of a cult. But this actually isn't exactly the very definition of what a cult traditionally is. You see, the dictionary definition of what a cult actually is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. And this description here doesn't necessarily fit a lot of controversial figures that have been described as having a cult-like audience, but with one individual in particular, this description fits perfectly. And yes, that is Onision, the man that legitimately has tried to start a cult over the last 20 years, which is a cult which features religious teachings in which Onision seems to be perceived as a godly being, and this religion is even supposedly the explanation behind the very name of Onision itself, and apparently this religion has been in practice since 1997. This isn't your regular run-of-the-mill headline where it says, this influencer has a cult-like fandom. No, this YouTube title here is actually incredibly accurate, because in today's video, what I want to do is, yes, explore the cult of Onision, also known as Sicesca. Yes, today we will be going through the history of Sicesca, its teachings, the recruitment process, and where this YouTube cult is in the modern day. This is going to be an incredibly in-depth video where we finally get to the bottom of what the cult of Onision actually is. But before we go any further, I just want to speak to you about today's sponsor, Aura. Have you ever Googled yourself and went on to make a shocking discovery that there is a large amount of personal information about you available online right now? Such as phone numbers, old addresses, or just in general personal details that you did not expect to find on the internet and just in general be publicly available to, well, anyone. It's a pretty shocking thing, and it can definitely be a head scratcher of wondering, well, how can I stop this? How can I get rid of this? Well, that's why I want to introduce you to Aura. You see, Aura is amazing. Aura has a data broker opt-out tool, which will help you remove personal information from data brokers and people's search sites that sell your information to identity thieves, scammers, and even more. Aura will keep you safe and protected from all of these types of malicious entities, but it doesn't end there. You see, Aura also offers identity theft protection, where Aura will monitor your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points like the dark web and public court records to alert you about potential identity theft. But it only gets better from there. Because every adult on the account up to 5 individuals gets $1 million in identity theft insurance to help cover eligible losses and fees, with a total of up to $5 million in coverage. It pretty much just guarantees your protection from all of these malicious entities on the internet. But Aura also offers a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, and also 24/7 US-based support. And the best part is you can get all of this at one affordable price. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches and brokers, and if you don't want to either, you can go to aura.com/iNabber to try 2 weeks for free right now. Because in that allocated amount of time, Aura will have more than enough time to work out if your personal data has been exposed. Thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring this video. But yes, with that, it is time to finally get into the cult of Onision, which starts us off with the origins of Sicesca. So yes, my friends, welcome to the origins of Sicesca. Now, the most important question actually is, well, what is Sicesca? Well, according to Onision, it is the name of the religion that he has actually followed since 1997. But what's interesting about this is Onision actually does have ties to other religion. Rather than just Sicesca, pre-1997, Onision actually had ties to Christianity. And no, not in the sense of Onision saw himself as a prophet in Christianity, but he just simply was a follower of that certain faith. As you can see here on this archived website that Onision used to post on, he claimed that between 1985 and 1996, since birth, he was taken to church every Saturday, as it was in his family that the true seventh day was on the Saturday, and that everyone that went to church on Sunday was wrong. At church, he witnesses people praying for family members to survive diseases/illnesses, and they always end up dying regardless. Yes, as you can see, Onision from a very young age had I guess very positive outlooks on life. Onision then goes on to explain why he started to lose more of his faith into Christianity, stating that people were going to church pretending to be a good person at that church, and then he witnessed those same individuals doing horrible/hypocritical things afterwards. And because of these factors and the reality that he stopped believing in Santa and Jesus at the same time, his family finally stopped going to church, but his father, however, continued to be a pastor living in an Ohio church. Now, typically this is a pathway that a lot of individuals go down when they are in a religious household. When they've had certain values installed in them from a very young age, they will really either go down two pathways. The pathway of teaching them same beliefs onto their family members and possibly even their children in the future, or leaving that religion and going on the complete opposite of a trajectory of self-discovery and really trying to work out what your purpose is in this universe. It's very clear, based on my research and readings into Sicesca, that something that really sparked Onision's interest into religion and faith was that at a very young age, he was lost. He didn't really know what his, purpose was in this world. And I know it is a bit strange to have any form of empathetic understanding for Onision, but I think it is important in this subject to have that certain level of empathetic understanding to see how we got to the point of where we are in 2025. And Onision's loss of faith in the Christian church led to the creation of Sicesca in 1997, which, funnily enough, was actually the year that I was born in, which is rather terrifying because maybe, I am actually the prophet of Sicesca. Now, Onision goes on to state that shortly after his loss in Christianity, he began searching for new answers, though in his search he did not look for others to help. He looked within himself and chose to believe what he thought was logical, and his faith became something that he called Sicesca. Now, when it comes to the actual name of Sicesca, I was unable to find its origins and where Onision actually came up with the wording of Sicesca. Now, you're going to discover in a second that Onision does like to derive a lot of words that he uses from Latin and Hebrew, but in this case, there wasn't really any translation that I could find or reason with that could come to an understanding of where Sicesca actually came from. So to me, it does just seem to be a case of Onision was just sat there brainstorming at 11 years old, because yes, that was the age when he created Sicesca, and he just thought of this thing that I guess sounded rather religious or cool to him, and yes, that was Sicesca. But even at this very basic entry point into Sicesca, I feel like this really does kind of represent a lot of the modern sentiment surrounding Onision in 2025. You see, Onision is now known as somebody who is very self-absorbed, self-obsessed. He is the only one that could possibly be right in every single scenario. And I feel like this whole Sicesca thing really exemplifies that even when he was 11 years old. Yes, losing your faith in religion is a pretty natural thing to happen when you grew up in a very religious household. But what isn't normal is then thinking, I need to go and start my own religion. When I'm trying to find a purpose in the world that I have here, it isn't just a case of, oh yeah, maybe I should start my own religion and become a prophet. It's, you go and do things, you explore the world, you go to college, university, you get a job, you meet friends, and that's where you discover your purpose. But Onision's search for purpose in this world came from, well, religion and his divine purpose to influence the world into following Sicesca. And with that, I want to quickly show you a little bit which is below this on this archived website, where as you can see, it starts to go into topics surrounding Sicesca, such as the soul, the brain, the body, and astrology. And pretty much these are the type of topics that Sicesca likes to go into, because as you're going to discover, Sicesca isn't your regular run-of-the-mill religion. It's not a case of a prophet was sent down to this earth to pretty much gain, I guess, the trust of everyone and make everyone follow them and believe in their kind of word of God. no, in this case, Onision's whole religion diverges into things such as the planet being alive, like a real entity, and there being actual space aliens that we kind of originate from, and there are specific super species that we've never even heard of, and it just goes into this absolutely insane place. Like, honestly, if Onision wasn't like a terrible person, I feel like he would genuinely be like an actual good like fictional lore writer. There's some things that he writes and I'm just like, this actually kind of slaps. But before we do that, I want to actually explore the name of, well, not Sicesca, but Onision. Because as I said before, I believe that this whole thing with Sicesca is actually ingrained into the very name of Onision itself. And the reason for that comes down to a post that Onision made a long time ago on the internet. As you can see here, Onision was trying to explain the fact that Onision means a specific thing. Oni equals one, and Sion equals divine community. You put those things together, and it states one divine community. And immediately that sounds very cultish. It almost seems to have some form of religious pull to it. When you hear a divine community, that usually means some form of holy thing, some form of religious related experience. And even when you go and find Reddit posts which are speaking about this whole definition behind Onision's name, you can see people bringing up the fact that, well, Onision actually does run a cult called Sicesca, and these two things could clearly correlate with each other. But what I find interesting about this is the fact that Onision's own definition actually makes no sense whatsoever. Oni does not mean one. You see, I did research and discovered that Oni is actually a word that comes from Japanese folklore, used to describe a type of demonic or ogre-like creature. And I really did do a lot of Googling and translating into other languages to try and find out if Oni really does mean one in any other language out there. But I actually could not find any reference point to this whatsoever, and I am open to being disproven on this because it doesn't really mean much, but I really couldn't find anything to show that Oni equals one, like Onision, said in the past. Now in Polish, Oni does mean they, specifically referring to a group of males or a group of including at least one male. But realistically, this doesn't go with the definition that Onision mentioned earlier. As we've seen in the past, Onision doesn't just go for young boys, he also goes for young... Sorry, I can't even say it, but, it's not necessarily a male-specific thing in the whole Onision fandom, and this Polish definition does not really match it. But the interesting thing is the Sion part of Onision actually does have some form of correlation to the divine community aspect that Onision speaks about. Because when you search the definition of Sion, it seems to mean that Onision is referring to Zion, which in the Bible refers to a hill in Jerusalem often used as a synonym for the city itself, representing a holy place for the center of the Jewish faith. Essentially, Sion is the Greek form of the Hebrew word Zion, and in the Old Testament, Zion is mentioned as the eastern hill of Jerusalem, where the King David established his capital. So yes, Sion and Zion are seemingly the same thing in this sense when the word has been translated into a Greek translation, and you can kind of see the reflection of what Onision was meaning previously in terms of a divine community. Yes, they're not exactly the same thing in terms of definition, but what it states here is I think Onision pretty much sees himself as a king establishing himself in his capital, in his faith, which obviously is an absolutely insane thing to say for any influencer out there or any human being out there, to put yourself on such a pedestal where you start to pretty much place yourself into religious texture is genuinely insane. Now, I'm not claiming to really know anything about that religious texture. This does just come from my own Google searches and trying to really get to the bottom of what Onision could possibly be referring to here. But yeah, the whole definition he gave for Onision doesn't exactly make much sense, but it does signify, in my opinion, that from a very early point onwards, Onision was basing his whole foundation in some form of religious belief. And in this case, yes, Onision was the religious leader that had established his place in the world, which was on the internet. And I think a lot of his teachings from Sicesca can really be reflected in all of this. Because whilst Onision isn't necessarily talking about Sicesca in 2024 anymore, I think the fact that he still goes by this religious type name is rather interesting, considering the things that we're going to get into when we explore the teachings of Sicesca. Which, yes, does finally lead us into the teachings of Sicesca. So yes, my friends, congratulations, you have made it to the teachings of Onision, our prophet, and of course, the religion of Sicesca. Now, pretty much everything that I'm about to go through comes from this archive website here, which originally was called Sicesca.com, and this website originates from 2004, which would make Onision around the ages of 19, I believe, which kind of shows to us that basically for Onision's entire life, he has been an absolute nut job who seems to think himself as some form of god from the age of 11. But also, I did just want to say, this really could not have been done without the help of the Internet Archive. Practically everything that we're going to be going through today is all just because that was saved on the Internet Archive, and I implore all of you, if you can, to support the Internet Archive in any way possible. It's an incredibly important website, and without it, we will lose so much important pieces of history that have happened on the internet over the years, and without it, I really could not have made this video. Now, immediately when you open this website, it gives you two specific options: Sicesca Light and Sicesca Dark. Now, to be honest with you, these are basically the exact same thing. It was just in 2004, Onision, strangely enough, actually discovered light and dark mode before pretty much every other social media company out there. And the one that I went with was light mode, just to really make it easier for me personally to read, because yes, I am one of sadly those disgusting individuals that still do use light mode. If there's any other of you people out there that also use light mode, well, I guess we are in itself also a cult. But yes, welcome to the introduction page surrounding Sicesca, where it claims to have the answers to the meaning of life, human origins, it explores outside worlds, human potential, the afterlife, social ethics, behavior, sexuality, health, and even the book of Sicesca. So yes, there absolutely is fundamentally just so much information that we need to get through. I don't know how long this is going to take, but pretty much what I want to do is explore every piece of information on this website. I have scoured all of this, and I've been putting this video off for a very long time just because of how long this possibly will take to read through all of this. So yeah, pretty much take this as a bit of an audio book where I just go through this Bible that Onision has made for his religion, where we analyze things, we give our opinions and interpretations, but overall, more importantly, learn the teachings of Sicesca. The literary documents provided on this site introduce and evaluate an amazing reality which is now finding homes in millions of information-hungry minds all over the earth. Now, I'm not exactly too sure how accurate of a statistic this actually is. As far as I know, in 2004, Onision wasn't exactly a popular individual on the internet, and not for any controversial reasons, it's just at this point of time, Onision wasn't exactly a very popular person, but I imagine the reason that he is stating this is mainly to convince the people that are reading this that, oh, a lot of other people are doing this, so maybe I should do this. But then it goes on to state that for recorded years of humanity, one of the many questions before intrigued minds has resolved around the most important topic of all subjects. What is existence for? And how do we exist? Yes, these are very big questions. The question of life, you could say, of why are we really here and what is our purpose? Well, don't worry, after thousands of years of pondering that question, philosophers, just losing their minds at trying to really work out why are we here amongst all of the stars in the universe, don't worry, Sicesca, and most importantly, Onision is here to answer those questions. Because Sicesca, according to this document, has become an answer to the vital questions concerning our lives through logical yet amazing facts involving past and present world. Those capable of understanding Sicesca and the perspectives provided will find the keys so many have been searching for. Today you have the opportunity to observe an alternative mentality, a path divided from the default standards involving simple beliefs that have convinced most all one time or another. And this is why I've dubbed this whole thing as a cult, because immediately into the introduction of Sicesca, it's trying to convince the reader that this is like a higher version of thinking. The people that understand Sicesca are simply on a different wavelength to the average people that confide themselves to the boundaries of regular humanity. Sicesca is this new form of thinking that if you get it, you get it. But if you don't get it, well, you're just basically a peasant. Our good old philosopher Onision says that existence is seemingly a complicated subject that so few have neared a proper conclusion to define beyond mere present time. Diversions through methods involving excuses such as downing human capabilities are oftentimes given freely to avoid confrontation of the reality at hand. We have the ability to explain ourselves, and here you will find how true this statement really is. You have entered a new section of human comprehension. Those seeking a meaningful answer to settle what no system of beliefs has before will continue on through the pages of our work that it has to offer. All others visiting us today will continue their lives devoid of these rare perspectives. The choice is yours. Continue? It basically feels like I'm being indoctrinated into a cult right now. It's saying that, oh, if you don't want to have our teachings and our rules and ways of life, then yeah, go about just living your life in sheer ignorance. But if you want to join Sicesca, we have the answers. We are here to introduce you to a new plane of being and existence and beliefs and understandings and ideologies that even the great philosophers of our time could not comprehend and understand. This is Sicesca, and yes, you betcha, we're gonna continue. And things go from 0 to 100 immediately, because in the next page it is called The Meaning of Life. And yes, I, just like you, can't wait to have my perspective and understanding of what life truly is to be warped by the guy well known for rating underage teenagers in YouTube videos. I can't wait for my mind to be warped. Now, religion exploring the meaning of life isn't exactly a new thing. The Bible, for example, states that the meaning of life is to know God, enjoy God, and to reflect God's light. But I feel like the problem is with Sicesca is if you follow this religion for a substantial amount of time, the only light you're going to be able to reflect is the light that shines through your jail cell. So yeah, there's not going to be that much light necessarily to reflect. Now, Onision starts off his perception of the meaning of life, stating that the countless questions can be asked regarding the existence of mammals, reptiles, even disease and death. Our lives have always held a beginning, and they will all surely one day meet its end. However, our existence is not the only reality that dwells before the universe's platter. As many know, it is indeed one of the most insignificant, yet despite this, our lives are also remarkable before many other creatures dwelling beyond our eyes' reach. The source of all humanity decided our main objective. Such origins are discussed later on in this series of explanations. New human beings are born around the world every moment of every day. Each individual has a future, but not a fate. Decisions are made by those who seek out a future absence of other humans controlling it. We all have potential to complete great tasks, and we all have the capability to destroy wondrous possibilities. Sadly, not many ever live up to their potential due to a mindset devoid of confidence and true desire. Now, based on what I'm reading here, it kind of does feel that Onision's cult Sicesca is moving into a position of anarchy, of where it's basically stating that we shouldn't have humans ruling, other humans, and that we are kind of constrained by the rules and regulations of society, and apparently this is going to introduce us to a new way of thinking, which, will surpass all of the original ways of thinking. Sure. I guess. He goes on to state that stories are made to represent what many of us wish to do, but simply believe ourselves to not have the ability or strength to take part in, oftentimes due to fear granted by what our peers and ancestors have represented. The value of life is decided by the individual ability to change one's surroundings as they see fit. Whether it is a living room or a continent, such desires can greet the most outstanding repercussions or praises, depending on their opinion opinion of those in witness. This is what I mean about Onision weirdly being a bit of a good writer in terms of like, kind of like getting you going, almost like getting you inspired. I can see this guy actually being a cult leader. What he's saying here genuinely would probably inspire an edgy teenager who's, you know, not exactly got much meaning in their life. At least they feel like they haven't got much meaning in their life at that point of time. And they read this of Onision being like, no, you can do better. It's society that's devoided you of all confidence and desire and willpower to do the things that you want to do. And Sicesca is here to convince you you can be more than you currently are. And honestly, if I was a 14-year-old, you know, reading this and I spoke to the great cult leader Onision, I would probably say, please leave me alone. I do not want to be groomed. But, you know, some people also may want to actually pay attention and they may possibly join this religion or cult. Now, he gets onto the main reason for our existence. He says it's a beautiful truth that we were all created to nurture our planet and each other, ultimately in a mission of optimizing our Earth and inhabitants for the best results on course to an extended survival. Living beyond expectancy is the greatest honor if in prime condition. The Earth today is indeed dying because of many humans' lack of knowledge or appreciation for this fact. Because of this, the planet will find its end before expectancy. Our planet's end was originally meant to coincide with the destruction of the sun, which by time had been assumed the protectors of Earth would avoid entirely through organic and metaphysical technology. We are destined to become the protectors of this Earth, while the Earth mutually protected us. Love among many things is a sub-objective in life. Individual desires in the right minds are respected by the source as was designed. However, like the corrupt have proven, love is an idea that has long run its course, only exclusive to few in the common day. Continue? So what I'm kind of getting from this is seemingly like some form of eco-anarchy. Like he kind of wants us to abandon all forms of humanity in terms of love and, you know, embracing each other as human beings and just put the planet first. And hey, planet first obviously is a right thing to do, but I don't necessarily believe that you need to abandon love. I don't think love is ever going to be this outdated belief that humans should no longer subscribe to. I feel, does that make sense? Subscribe to it? You know what I mean? I don't think love is something we'll ever abandon, but according to Sicesca, it basically is this outdated practice and we need to abandon it so we can just protect the planet. And it's like, I feel like love can be extended into protecting the planet. You love your family, you love your wife, your husband, and you want to protect them, and that, you know, comes into the fact that you want to protect the planet so we can be here for longer, so our kids can be here for longer, the youth of tomorrow can be here for longer. Abandoning love, I don't necessarily believe is a good thing, and it only kind of reiterates that yes, this is indeed a cult because it's following these very extreme ideologies and beliefs. Stating that love is running its course is kind of hilarious, but at the same time, you also have to then remember that, yeah, as I said earlier, Onision was a teenager at this point of time, and I feel like when you're a teenager, you do say a lot of, like, crazy things. I understand. Well, when I say he was a teenager, he was, like, 19 years old. So, yes, he was an adult, but at the same time, he still was going through his edgy teen phase, and, you know, this was at the period of time where Al Gore was becoming a bit of a meme for climate change and how he kind of tackled that issue. And ultimately, that did not exactly age well. A lot of shows out there which were mocking him at the time, like South Park, have now, you know, gone back on that. And Al Gore actually is seen now as a pretty smart guy who was ahead of, you know, the times. But I feel like at the same time, with climate change being a bit of a newly discussed thing amongst young people at that period of time, it did lead to a lot of edgy people being like, we need to abandon humanity and just prioritize the planet. And it's like, we can do both. But, you know, I don't really think this is about being productive or becoming a scientist. I feel like this is just about Onision wanting to be a cult leader from a very young age. And as we go further into this whole thing, you're going to discover that actually, yeah, Onision doesn't exactly care for the planet. I mean, this is the same guy. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. This is the same guy that is known for killing his pet turtle or tortoise, either one. he did this. This is not a guy that cares about the planet. This is a guy that just really cares about, being a powerful individual that has control over others. But then after this, we get into Onision's origin source of humanity. And as you're going to discover from this section in particular, as we go further into the Bible of Sicesca, things just keep on getting longer and longer. And it kind of feels that Onision one day decided to create this religion, but as he got further and deeper into this rabbit hole, he actually did start to come up with a lot of very in-depth beliefs. Like, there is actual lore that this guy has when it comes to Sicesca. It's not just a set of ideas and rules, as much as Onision in the future tried to convince people that it was that. No, there is godly lore and explanations of why we are here, and it all begins, well, here. The source of humanity. From the center of Earth dwells a major power which keeps humanity in play whilst living out a lifespan remaining for its future. Proper respects are rarely given to our humble life source. Like plants, water, and the soil we walk on, we once came. What do you mean by that? And the soil we walk on, we once came. The earth once produced chemicals devising and manipulating pre-human body to near perfection in order to create advanced creatures to one day defend our earth's very life. Unlike the apparent failure of other planets, our earth created both soul and body to serve it with free will while having our own individual lives to advance ourselves. While being the sons and daughters of the world we live in, good nature towards others manifests also as a contribution to our planet in a small or large portion. So basically what I'm getting from this is another part of Sicesca is to believe that the planet is this own real breathing entity that actually has thoughts and is sentient and basically is the god of Sicesca. Well, at least that's what it's being described as at this point of time, and humans are here to serve that planet. And, we are now doing what other planets didn't do correctly thousands or millions of years ago when those planets, created souls or just bodies that weren't free thinking. And now we have free thinking bodies and we're here to protect our planets. Okay. On all continents, different races and species were created based on the world's different habitats. And being created by different sections of one life form came different life form appearances and even alternate species. Since the time of birth, humans have created languages, cultures, and furthermore mentalities which as time passes separates many from Earth while focusing more on self. And that's why he created a religion, I guess, because he spent time focusing on himself and decided, what? I need to be a cult leader. Nearer to the first birth of humans came a greater sense of respect for our planet as we relied on it while we in return gave it a sense of value beyond other planets. Assumingly destined to mutually contribute, the Earth continued to support our lives in significant portions. Since then, our planet has even not given up on us as we are not yet failures of the cause. 20 years after this has been written, I would say that has not aged well because, in the grand scheme of things, I feel like we probably have failed this planet. If it was this big breathing, sentient entity, I feel like it probably died a good long time ago, to be honest with you. And that is very depressing, but at the end of the day, maybe if we were all following Sicesca back in 2004, things would actually be better now. One of the realities existence offers is to exist. Yeah. Those who have the ability to create life often take time of the opportunity with honor and appreciation, just as the Earth has. Originally, the Earth created various different types of living and non-living forms. Many of them we have not yet seen, as they have been buried below the depths. I'm sorry, but if there's one thing that I love about this sentence here is that you can see that there is a spelling mistake. There is a spelling mistake in the religious text of our new god Onision. At least even the gods themselves are flawed. So Onision says there are, advanced creatures below the depths beyond the reptiles that we call dinosaurs. After experimentation and learning, the Earth created advanced species before a more advanced species due to the trials given to the now fallen life form species. Today exists and number of those species which dwell among us, none of them powerful to eliminate the most advanced humans. Some creatures were created to supply food for the seemingly superior species, which were in result intended to mutually contribute with our Earth. Yet in result, much destruction and pointless death has come of our free will. While humans are the most advanced creatures in the living world today, we were never meant to end the lives of any other creatures unless we ourselves could fully use the physical bodies of the creatures or plants slain for real survival's benefit. I mean, I feel like this is a little bit contradictory. We were not meant to cause harm onto other creatures, but it's also saying it's fine if we eat those creatures. Now, I'm not exactly a vegan, but I do actually think that this is very flawed logic. You could agree that it's fine to eat meat, but I think if you also state that, we aren't allowed to slay other creatures, I feel like that's a little bit contradictory, because at the end of the day, eating meat is, well, slaying other creatures and eating them for your own benefit. All creatures on this earth have a purpose, regardless of the fact that humans remain one of the most intriguing and baffling creatures beyond all others. A common nature of living creatures, which can comprehend communication of any kind, is to advance themselves and those of similar kind. This is why fish swim in packs. This is why predators take the lives of others for food in packs. I mean, it's pretty ironic that this guy is speaking about predators. Fish often stay together for survival, while predators, often more so weak alone, recognize the power in numbers just as non-predators with a contrary defense motivation. With this said, you can also look towards humanity, more complicated creatures with a similar mentality. We human beings create security systems, alarm clocks, helplines, and many more sources of assistance which help keep our survival intact, while also making our less vital aspects of life healthy. Now, with what was stated, our Earth has made us to keep itself alive, and we must fulfill such purpose. So now we're at the ending part of this section. I feel like the understanding that I'm getting that the meaning of life is, according to Sicesca, is the Earth is a living, breathing, sentient being, and we are here to kind of mutually look after it and make sure that the planet lives as long as possible, whilst the planet also then makes us live as long as possible. Now, in theory, I don't exactly think that this necessarily is a harmful belief, but at the end of the day, if Onision cared about the planet, he could have become a politician. He could have worked to become a scientist that fights against climate change or a climate activist, but instead, he decided to become a cult leader, which to me kind of signifies nefarious intentions. It kind of shows that Onision isn't really, in my opinion, caring about the planet and its well-being, and is more caring about himself and having power over other individuals. The average person that cares about the planet and climate change does not go and start a cult of religious beliefs. But with that, Onision then moves into the next section, which of course is the purpose of humans. And obviously, when it comes to a cult and giving the purpose of a human being, it's gonna give us some answers that may be controversial. So yes, the purpose of humans. In the previous sections, there have been discussions to the purpose of humans to assist the logic behind the Sicescan belief in the meaning of life. The purpose was said to work towards advancements of human civilization to the point in which we are able to protect the mother of our species, Earth. Beyond this, what is there? Why are we here? Well, Gregory, tell me why we are here. Is it to be investigated by the authorities? Is it so you can rate teenagers as looks on your YouTube channel? Because that's seemingly what Onision did with his life, but let's see what Sicesca should tell you to do with your life. He goes on to state that in the Sicescan way of life, one can easily find that the logistics involve little shades of black and white, but rather a world of colour, with many depths and many realities that you specifically can choose to follow, while in the process being rather accurate as to the genuine truth revolving around our lives. We are indeed destined to serve and protect our Earth when it needs us most. However, with emotions such as love, satisfaction, and pride, we are to satisfy self, which in the end can help create greater strengths in the fight for our survival. Above yet beside these objectives comes a tremendously unexplored realm which we humans fortunately have the ability to partake in, the Divant realm, or the Divant realm. So yeah, Onision is starting to get into the spirituality aspect of Sicesca, and trust me, there is quite a lot of these things, but before we go into that subject, I want to just kind of step back and go through something that he just mentioned here, of how he speaks about how love can actually help bring greater strengths for the fight for our survival. Now this is quite interesting because I only a few pages backwards, he was basically stating that love is an outdated thing, but now he's also stating that it is actually this really good thing. Obviously, I agree that it is this really good thing, but it kind of feels like a direct contradiction to what he was saying 2 pages ago. But either way, I'm not really shocked that there's contradictions in this. But yes, the spirituality of Sicesca. This is something that Gregory is going to go into a lot of depth now. So yes, there's going to be a lot of reading, but trust me, it is definitely a interesting read. And this is when it goes into the whole like science fiction writing that I've said that Onision is weirdly not that bad at when it comes to this Sicescan lore. And what kind of interests me is I've actually read the books of Onision, and all of his books are generally just terrible in every single aspect, from storytelling to just in general literature. It's awful. But this with Sicesca, it actually is kind of like his most interesting work so far. So Onision starts us off by stating, due to various violent and conflicting religions strongly supported in the common community today, we fear what most call evil. We believe all the creatures which we cannot touch and feel with a physical object are either entirely corrupted or good. There is no central point. There is no belief in the afterlife being a pleasant place without a higher power to protect what not need to be protected due to true, yet unexplored self-sufficiency, and the powers our Earth gave our forefathers from the beginning of our existence. The next step that needs to be taken in human advancement towards the protection of our world is the very realm of which other religions have made us fear. Some call it the fourth dimension, others describe it as words such as astral plane. Yes, Sicesca is taking us to the fourth dimension, and it's also going to allow us to start befriending spirits, because spirits can't be bad or good. There is a center point. Quite like humans, they are nuanced. They need understanding, which isn't just a black or white answer. Now, when you're actually coming at this from like a nuanced perspective, ironically, you can kind of get the feeling that Onision is like a anti-hero in like an anime. He's kind of like presenting himself as the guy who's trying to break the reality of the world, and there's this grand conspiracy that we're being prevented from this specific dimension that humanity was meant to visit. It's kind of like, you know, Attack on Titan. We're like stuck in our walls, and Onision's going to break us through to the walls, so we're going to get to Mali. Onision's going to become the great Titan, and everyone's going to die pretty much. Okay, maybe it isn't that like Attack on Titan, but it is interesting that he is going into this realm of demons and spirits and the Divant realm, also known as the astral plane. Yeah, let's get into it. The next step that needs to be taken in human advancement towards the protection of our world is the very realm of which religions have made us fear. And yeah, he says the astral plane. We all have the ability to eliminate the negativity that can consume our lives through mere drunkenness or emotions, because we are of living human essence, and in that our abilities far exceed those with no physical world abilities or experience. Those equipped with the right knowledge will/can travel into the unseen world of Divant to assist the Savantes in forcing away the zodin that at times consumes their post-physical realm existences. And yes, congratulations, you've officially reached the section of where Onision has seemingly lost his marble. Because, yeah, as you can see, it's speaking about Zodin, Divant, and Savantes, and we're going to explore what these things are together and what Sicescans truly define these words to be. Because yes, not only has Onision created an actual Bible, he's also created his own dictionary of where he has these new words he's created that only exist in Sicescan literature. By controlling and exploring Divant, we can also eliminate physical realm threats such as bioweapon construction, murders, and many more crime-related activities. Now it doesn't feel like Attack on Titan. Now I'm getting like Death Note vibes. Are we going to go to the dimension that Ryuk's in and we're going to get the Death Note and just eliminate crime? Because what I'm, to be honest, whenever I see Onision, I do kind of get the feeling that he is like trying to be like Yagami at every single point of his life, even with his like style and hair. I swear you can Google Onision Death Note and yeah, as you can see, yes, it comes up with multiple things of where Onision is trying to be like Yagami from Death Note. know. And I feel like his religion is pretty much based on the whole Shinigami realm of which is now just the diver. But also what it says here is we can dive into this, fourth dimension astral plane land called Divin, and we can focus on removing crime related activities. What? You're telling me I've got the ability to dive into the fourth dimension, and I'm going to use that ability to become a cop? It just doesn't seem like the most exciting thing. The reason this religion failed is because it told people you can astrally project, but you've got to be a police officer to do that. I mean, it's also incredibly ironic that this guy is wanting to remove crime from the world via speaking to spirits in the fourth dimension. It's like, Onision, these spirits would remove you. He goes on to state that our human shells provide an energy which feeds and supports our spirits, while supplying them with greater potential that any zodin could ever desire. And I love that up until this point, Onision actually hasn't explained what a zodin is. And if he doesn't, we will, I will give you the definition, which I actually did find eventually. But before we do that, we need to get into the fun stuff, speaking about the truth about the outside worlds. And this is a ridiculously long explanation, but yeah, there's this grand conspiracy about the other worlds. Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, they're all against us. This is a war in multiple dimensions that only the real Sicescans are fighting. The truth about outside worlds: our planet is not only one massive life form with the ability to produce smaller, less capable creatures. Amazing amounts of alien abductions and studies have been reported by oftentimes healthy and logical beings. These abductions are most often for pure study by species in way more advanced than others. At times, the abduction reports are merely in reality night terrors, otherwise known as sleep paralysis. Yet when actual events do occur, the aliens seek out what not many have been able to comprehend completely. The studies are reaching for a goal in search of what many outsiders fail to understand. Our Earth produces unseen energies to live with our organic bodies, while outsiders are much like the simplest of our brethren animals, while also having the ability none of us are able to grasp, to learn and remember for hundreds of years, as their lifespan exceeds the common physical human span 4 times. This fact is also an aspect of considering why they have advanced sooner than humans have. So yeah, I guess according to Sicesca, there are also alien species out there. And I'm kind of confused because he's kind of like positioning it like Earth is God, but at the same time there's species from other planets. So are they like gods that I'm meant to fight? Is this like becoming like a bit of a Greek thing or a bit of a Norse thing of where, Earth is Odin and then Mars is like Thor, and I don't know, there's Loki, who's probably, I don't know, like Pluto. Yeah, Pluto, it's a planet still in my books, but either way, I am a little bit lost right now. But he does state the planets that some aliens are able to travel from, oftentimes in perspective, are less compliant with the laws of positive and negative, and lacking a divertive realm for the corrupted species to dwell, as many planets cannot rid themselves of everything they create. Our Earth bans the negative projects it could not destroy to the Divant, however. Some tend to break through the human psyche during our weakest points, which is oftentimes where corrupted human beings come from, the unseen world among us. The corrupt individual's vibes spread outwards whilst attracting the other zodin due to unseen energies. In this, uncorrupted bodies are approached with the seemingly demonic situations such as haunted houses or other evil encounters, because the Earth is unable to eliminate the unseen zodin. Another shade of color, as mentioned, lies before us as to why humans were created with soul, intellect, and bodies. In relation to alien encounters comes an attitude much like the zodins. What they have in common with the zodins is that they lack the emotion we humans are able to emit and experience regularly. This causes high curious questions amongst those who visit us, and is only one motivation behind such visitations. Yes, that was a lot of information to consume, but basically at this point of time, I'm kind of coming to the understanding that the zodins are Basically, like this form of negative energy that's been discarded from this world into another dimension, the astral dimension, I've already forgotten the name of it. That shows how, like, lost I am. The Divant, that's what I meant. The Zodins were kind of sent there to kind of, like, live away from human beings, but sometimes they punch through reality and they haunt us in scenes such as, I don't know, The Conjuring, or I'm thinking of Hollywood films right now, and they've just gone from my mind. Pretty much all the demonic activity that you may have experienced in your lifetime, rather than that being an actual demon, if you believe in that, it actually wasn't that. It was actually just a big ball of energy stuck in the Shinigami realm, and, you know, like Yagami let him through, and here we are. This is like one of the stupidest videos I think I've ever made. And whilst, like I said, that he's good at writing, I feel like I'm more just saying he's good at writing because it just intrigues me at how, like, mentally insane one 19-year-old could have possibly been. But what's even more crazy is this was just like the beginning for Onision. This is like down here in terms of where he got in terms of insanity. This is just the beginning, but let's continue with the lore of Sicesca. Our planet, unlike so many others, is/was advanced and pure enough to become a rightful conclusion as to how it would be able to eliminate or silence the negativities once created by those deemed fit to occupy a human body. Sadly, the Divant would have to be exposed to the Zodins to prevent them from unleashing and destroying all hope of our planet's survival in the physical world. Yet even with this near solution, we must recognize how incomplete it really is, and as stated, we humans have the solution. Yes, so basically, we are at war with the Zodins. You didn't know it, and that's fine. You know, you didn't know about Sicesca before this, but now you're indoctrinated in it. You need to understand that this is a new reality, and this is just the beginning. We are fighting a dimensional war, people, against the Zodins. You know, we've got to actually take this seriously. So let's get into the solution that Onision, and more importantly, Sicesca, has for us in fighting those evil Zodins. I feel like I'm saying a dirty word when I say those Zodins. I feel like we're already being prejudiced towards this. I don't even know who these people are, or this energy are.
Call me.
He did not.
I'm not saying that I hate the Zodins. I'm just saying that we're at war, and war is war. Anything can happen. But yeah, he says, once we obtain the ability to pass through as a soul in current ownership of a body, we will have the ability to rid the planet of the negative energies which drain and consume the Divants. In this, we will unleash a new world of power, helping us defend our planet and its creatures from further unwelcome studies by altering the physical world via the Divants, giving the outsiders no choice but to live our livelihood alone. This cannot easily be done with the Zodins feeding off weak human energy, making themselves more resistant and strong in between our regions of life. As is seemingly obvious, the Zodins do manage to break through the Divants to alter the physical realm as their desires see fit. Considering how powerful human souls are in comparison to the body-absent Zodins in both the physical and metaphysical worlds, we are more powerful and have more potential to express such strength than any other in the Divants. This is why no matter how advanced technology becomes in the other worlds, our planet will remain a wondrous entity to be observed and respected. Hell yeah, brother! America! Sorry, I just felt like I was getting a speech of some form there, but it's kind of beautiful, you know. Onision is like a war general. he's like the Winston Churchill of the real physical realm, and he's going to lead us into battle against the Zodins. What do the Zodins look like? I don't know. I'm sure Onision can tell us in the future of this Bible, but yeah. This is seemingly our new grand purpose. It's all about protecting the Earth, but now it's like, oh, I'm also enlisted in a military. But with that, Onision then gets into human potential. Yes, if there's anything that I needed to know, it was my potential written up by 19-year-old Onision. Human potential. Inside most all humans dwells an amazing force which has abilities beyond which many have ever imagined. So basically, we're no longer just in Death Note, Attack on Titan, we're also now in Star Wars. This is what I mean. This guy is like combining every piece of like fictional sci-fi media, and he's putting it together, and I love it. I love it. Our human shells also have abilities when occupied by a soul or being radiated what many call an aura. Yes, we are aura farming, even in the Sicesca religion. It's actually kind of beautiful. Yeah, the aura, all beings have passed from ages, our memories commonly fail to tell. Our strength can grow from practice, not with time. No matter how many bodies one occupies through reincarnation, strength of the soul does not increase until knowledge of one's power is noted. Knowledge. Some say humans will have the ability to fly without wings or technology. This is not true, nor is the idea that we are able to lift buildings without proper assistance from those of the divans. However, all of the rightfully occupied bodies have the ability to create a protector for their souls that can be seen in the metaphysical realm. These protectors will keep away all unwelcome guests of the divans, even Sivantes if such a desire is necessary. Again, it's the Sivantes 70 thing. This hasn't actually been mentioned throughout all of this, so I'm excited to learn what Sivantes actually is. The protectors are a reflection of self with a strengthened image to assist efficiency in keeping away negative vibes, along with the two classes dwelling in the divans. These are highly effective for a universally pure life if used in the right manner. For those who feel so much more strengthened than their peers in the soul spectrum, a source of fire/light seen in the divans can be developed within one central point of energy, the chest, the cranium, rapidly making its way onward to radiate a light/flame, flushing all energies of any kind of way. So now it's not just Star Wars, but it's also Dragon Ball Z. Yes, we're also going to be fighting Vegeta in the divans. It's actually kind of interesting. I feel like there's like multiple villains in this. You've got to fight Vegeta, there's going to be Palpatine, there's Eren Yeager, and then right at the ending is just Gregory himself. It's beautiful. In such a situation, imagination and persistence is a key. You must create the light or fire within yourself and force it out with a power much like the sun. Yes, you are literally doing like the anime thing of where they just release energy from their hands or chest or mouth. But basically, you could be becoming Godzilla as well at this point. I mean, all characters from fictional universes are on the table at this point. Another method of protecting one's body from fear and or invasion is to write symbols on walls surrounding the area in which you stay most often. Only if you believe in these symbols will the proper energies be kept out. Otherwise, the time spent will be wasted, as a deflective box or circle would not be present in your mind, and with little to no metaphysical structural integrity, the walls may crumble. Such occurrences should be avoided, and another member of the faith should be grouped to assist in protection. This tactic is exactly like the reference before regarding animals and packs. These abilities were given to us to fight off those of the divant who are not meant to find their way into the physical realm. Many people need not to create a protector, a safe room, or an energy field around themselves for anything below standard protection, as we were all created with such a field of energy. However, those who keep the strongest of zodins or corrupted Sivantes from hurting innocent humans as they have in the past, knowledge often does lead to power, and with that, you can become your own sanctuary of peace and protection. Without willpower, passion, and ambition, however, this is near impossible. I'm currently watching Demon Slayer, and I am actually kind of getting some Demon Slayer core vibes here. Like, Onision is kind of teaching that, the people of Sicesca are going to fight against the demons in the world, and, the average human being that can't see the power and energy, radiating from a member of Sicesca, they don't know about it, but you know you are protecting all of the good humans in the world from these demons. But of course, when it comes to religion and when it comes to believing in the afterlife, there needs to be a discussion of what actually happens after we, human beings, die. It's obviously the unanswered question that can really never be answered unless you're a member of Sicesca. Because now we move on to the unseen post-living. When human bodies die, the way we lived our lives will decide whether or not we will occupy a human body again. Those who are able to stay pure in the divant and in the physical realm are given the opportunity to find a home in a developing body. Exceptions and measures are taken to save some Sivantes by giving the Sivante a body which counters their behavior in the past life or in the divants. This is kind of like an absolutely horrifying thing to read. Like, imagine dying and then suddenly, you go into the realm of Sicesca and suddenly they're like, well, you can go into another body if you really want, mate. And it's like, well, I don't want to go into another body. I want to go into my body. But either way, you're going to go into another body. And if you don't want to do that, well, some other bloke's going to go into your body. I don't know how that makes sense, but it's quite horrifying. But yes, it continues by stating, such examples of this are oftentimes those who spend their lives hurting others emotionally due to lack in compassion will find themselves in an abusive relationship only through this turn being on the receiving end at an age, or mindset which would not allow them to contradict or counter fairly. Another example of such learning experience would be to put a handicap/disable a person who would pick on those physically weaker than themselves, giving a new perspective or even astonishing realization that would change them forever. Now, I do need to say that I did not read that. I'm going through this as we go through it together. I've read the main parts, but not the bigger detail parts. And naturally, this isn't exactly the good writing that I was talking about. I was mainly more interested in the spirituality aspect of it. But apparently that has now led into Onision giving people disabilities as a form of, like, punishment, which obviously is a pretty despicable thing to say. And I don't think I really need to explain that any further. This whole section is just absolutely terrible, especially based on the fact that he is saying that he wants to, make people be in abusive relationships or have a disability because they treated someone harshly in a previous life. That's what he's stating here. When you get reincarnated, if you're mean to someone, you will then face, terrible things in the future by being in like a terrible relationship. Like, that to me doesn't really make much sense, because when you actually think about the logical, mentality behind if somebody's terrible or mean or a bully, in a lot of circumstances, a bully has also been bullied themselves. And I think if we just continue to put people in situations where they're bullied, it's obviously only going to lead to that person themselves being a bully themselves. And yes, obviously, there are terrible people in history that we can't apply this logic to, but we're talking about, day-to-day bullies. I don't necessarily think they need to be reincarnated into a life of where they're facing bullying every single day. I honestly don't, and I feel like this religion is just kind of the skewed perspective of an edgelord stuck in this era of where everything is bad, and he's gonna change the world by writing this religious text, but reality is you just kind of seem like a bit of a whiny crybaby. But then he goes on to confuse me even further when he says, upon death, a choice is made. When we occupy new bodies, our memory is to be wiped of all but the subconscious and the soul. So this really makes no sense in the sense of, like, I guess punishing people into being bullied if they bullied someone in their past, because that person can no longer remember their past. So this isn't really like a punishment or a learning lesson. You are just making someone get bullied or be in a terrible relationship for no reason whatsoever. And in turn, that may make them go enact such terrible things again onto other people. These are events that repeat themselves. A bully isn't just born out of nothing. There are usually factors. There's terrible things going on in their childhood. There's terrible things going on at home. They've been bullied themselves. And I think Onision's mentality of, if you've bullied someone, you're also going to deal with bullying in the next life. It's just like, well, you're only perpetuating the idea of bullying people by doing this. But yeah, he says you're wiped to your subconscious, and contrary, we have the option to dwell in a divant for a short while, possibly choosing to watch over our families and friends until we are ready to move past the life lived until the next death. Some delusions are made about the afterlife regarding speaking to the dead. Not all those who believe they are communicating with the dead truly are, and in that are rather speaking to themselves. This is somewhat like those who believe they are talking to a higher power or making conversation with a recently passed relative when they have already chosen a new body. This, however, does not discredit all assumptions of the presence of a loved one that they may have. Continue on to discover more in regards. Our physical minds are powerful enough to create alternate personalities as we see fit. Whether or not we realize that they are split personalities is entirely up to the creator of the regarded communication. And in this, an astonishing amount of us seems to drain away our days into doomed hopes and improbable dreams. Much like this, those who believe that they are speaking with those in the divant can find themselves sadly mistaken when they encounter conflictions with accuracy and plausibility. The truth beside all savient human interactions is that we are best connected with them through the unexpressed aspect of emotion. Presence is more often than not genuine when detected by stronger vibes we sense on an occasional basis. If one is to feel something next to them only to look beside them and see nothing, this does not mean the air only dwells before them, but rather a Sicesca or zodin stands before them. Now honestly, I kind of want to make an apology because earlier, as I said, I thought the writing in this was quite good, but as we go further into this, I feel like the lore is just kind of contradicting itself because he's stating that some people, when they feel like they've spoken to a spirit, aren't actually speaking to a spirit, but they also are speaking to a spirit, and it's like, he seems to not be able to get his own lore right, even in the same paragraph of where he's writing said lore, and, I'm kind of disappointed. This started off strong, but as we go further and further into the Bible of Sicesca, I'm starting to realise that maybe, just maybe, this isn't the one true religion. But after this, we then move into the social ethics aspect of Sicesca, where it explores behavior, sexuality, and health. Because yes, if you were confused about your sexuality and just in general who you are as a human being, don't worry, because once again, Sicesca is there, but most importantly, Onision is there to answer all questions. Behavioral guidance. In society today, we find a large amount of conflicting belief systems, cultures, and general opinions regarding various topics. One of the major problems we find in society is pressure to use religion as a role in governments, non-private schools, and various other organizations originally intended to stand absent of any belief system. Considering our past and present, Sicescans encourage all followers and associates to only express beliefs of Sicesca if it is first requested by peers. In no way do we wish Sicescans to pressure or discomfort those who are not ready for the systems of beliefs. Don't worry, they'll come round to it eventually. We are not a group that should be obsessed over, but rather we are mere messengers of the truth, unlike other groups relying on faith. Dirty, dirty faith. I recognize reality has a main purpose to respect the earth we live on, as it is the creator of our lives, and in that we realize the service that we are meant to one day provide. Attempts to contact, temporarily pass into, or otherwise connect with the divant are discouraged if alone. As emphasized before, there is power in numbers, but when alone, the experiences can become most unpleasant, considering first entrance of the divant has a respectable chance of containing negative entities nearby. To expand your mind and the mind of others by informing others of your experience should be the main objective. Again, this is a complete contradiction. Only a paragraph before was he stating that, oh yeah, we shouldn't really push our religion onto other individuals, but now he's like, no, it's the main objective. It's like, get your facts right, Onision. I'm trying to join Sicesca, but I'm only being pushed away by this. When one mocks, attacks, or disturbs the Zodin or even the Sicesca, negative recoil is likely to occur. Because of this, and by the ethics encouraged by Sicesca, a respectful attitude when handling the world of Divant is strongly encouraged. What you do with your life is up to your mind to draw out. If you truly believe in Sicescan reality, your objectives in life will be to live happy, to make progress, to consider the possibilities available for our Earth, to do what it takes to save our planet's ecosystem, to make a difference for all of the better of Earth and humanity, and most of all, to live free of the shackles society has to offer. Because yes, Sicesca is the new way of life. In Sicesca, what you're going to do is look after the planet, respect others, and just in general, love thy neighbor. It's starting to sound like another religion. I'm joking. Please do not go all girl defined on me. I cannot be bothered for that today. But either way, we'll move away from that and we'll go into something less controversial where Onision actually starts to discuss sexuality. Perspectives involving sexuality. People of our history have proven to demote the value of the female gender countless times due to one major factor: physical strength. I mean, I feel like there are more factors to it, not justifying any of them, but to just put it down to physical strength, I don't necessarily think is an accurate representation of why women have been oppressed throughout thousands and thousands of years of society. However, a contrary conclusion is held in our clear way of life. Humans were created in two classes, male and female. Look, this was written in 2004. Just saying. I don't want to get into any debacles. However, in making this an attempt for companionship, the free will of ego and the common male's desire for dominance came into play. Appreciation of the complexities a woman must go through in order to produce a new physical body are not respected as much as strength in the current world are by the masses. In support of both genders, we appreciate both parties for their strengths and weaknesses. Not all people are created equal, yet by opinion, opposing sexes are beside one and another, just as they are often in life and love. A major issue that has been around the world of thousands of years, both in the home and the public, is those who choose to find love with the same sex. A major issue that has been seen around the world for thousands of years, both in the home and public, is those who choose to find love with the same sex instead of the opposing. By respective of many unsympathetic citizens and even major authority figures, this way of life is seen to be a cancer in societies all over the world. Sicesca, however, has no concerns of sexual preference. Oh, okay, I am glad that there is at least one positive to this religion. Our focus is on the conversation of the earth and those dwelling on it. Looking over this, all humans with a desire to help are welcome in our cause. So yeah, if you are in the LGBTQ+ community, Onision accepts you, and most importantly, Sicesca embraces you. But then we move on to the next section, which is of course the one that a lot of you guys really don't prioritize, and that is physical health. I know you guys have been skipping out on going to the gym and eating your greens, but yeah, Onision and Sicesca, they have their whole perspective surrounding it, and yeah, let's just get into it. As we are to keep this world healthy, we are meant to keep ourselves in the best condition possible. By overeating, spreading disease, expressing unnecessary rage, and many other corrupt activities, you as an individual make our planet less livable. It is said that those who hate life also despise themselves, and in disliking self, appreciation of all other things becomes much more complicated. To make sure your life is a healthy one, you should take part in regular dentist, doctor, and psychiatrist visitations, however often as advised. Those who keep themselves in the right mind and body will find a greater self-sense of worth, confidence, and overall use for the advancement of society. Now, not to go a little bit deep and philosophical here, but I feel like immediately this religion is incredibly classist in the sense of it doesn't actually take into the context a lot of people out there do not have access to this type of healthcare. A lot of people can't afford to go to the dentist, go to a psychiatrist, or go to just in general a doctor. And also, it's very easy for someone who doesn't necessarily have a life of turmoil and strife to say that, oh yeah, if you're not mentally healthy, then you will not be appreciated by Sicesca. But, you know, I feel like there's a lot of reasons to why people aren't mentally healthy. Rather than tackling the issues of people not being in a good mental state by stating, oh, you're not important to our religion, how about make the religion about answering why people are in these positions, answering why are so many people going through mental health crises, why are so many people in a position of where they can't afford healthcare, why are so many countries, in particular the USA that Onision lives in, not giving free public healthcare. I feel like honestly, this religion would be a lot more appealing if it just answered those questions and basically said, if you're in a bad state, that's fine. This religion promotes physical health, it promotes mental health, but we also understand that not everyone is going to be on a level playing field. But what I get here is pretty much the complete opposite of that, by it basically stating that, yeah, Sicesca sees people without mental health issues as a advancement of society. I just don't think it's necessarily fair. It goes on to say that when people see each other failing in life, unhealthy, ungroomed, and unhappy, the vibe sent out can oftentimes turn to be dramatic. Those who fail to care about themselves are in many ways hurting everyone else in their lives, whether it be through smoking, insulting themselves, or any other method of degrade. Don't give up on life. Know that there is hope that you will one day be a person of peace and bliss if you truly look for it in others and in yourself. We cannot serve the greater cause if we are not healthy. We are all on this planet to prove what we can do for it and everyone else living on it. We are intended to be the light in the dark. If you have been seeking a higher power to guide all the way, all you ever have to do is look in the mirror. There you will find your past, present, and future. What you are is an amazing creation unlike no other. Respect that fact and become what you were meant to be. And this seemingly is the ending of the Sicescan Bible, and I feel like it ends in a pretty weak, sour note, because in my opinion, it really doesn't take into the context of regular human issues. And I understand at this point of time he was 19 years old, but I feel like even a 19-year-old could understand that, yeah, life isn't that simple. It's not so simple in the sense of, oh, people almost just deliberately trying to be mentally unwell or physically unfit. There are so many reasons in this world that people go through strife, and I feel like if a religion is telling you that it's like so easy to just get over these issues, that it's probably not the right religion to follow. I feel like most major religions actually do embrace like the strife in life and speak about how that is a part of being a human being, whereas Sicesca just kind of tries to be like, no, that's a thing that we shouldn't do. It's just negative vibes. And it's like, no, I feel like that's just part of being a human being. Now, the final page of the Sicescan Bible states that basically the Sicescan belief system is a relatively new mind at works, and I've only explored the top of our philosophical Grand Canyon, and please check back soon for additional pages. But yeah, that pretty much is a summary of everything to do with Sicesca so far. Now, eventually this website did disappear in 2007, where it became Onision's blog, but as you can see, the remnants of Sicesca were still there. But there were a few questions that I had that I don't think were necessarily answered, and the Life of Onion, which is like a blog, forum, wiki page that answers all things about Onision, has actually found a lot of documentation that Onision has posted over the years about Sicesca and has answered some of my, I guess, unanswered questions, such as what actually is the zodin. It says that zodin, described in the site, is the souls that have never experienced human occupation of given right, oftentimes sociopaths due to lack of experience of human emotion through a first-person perspective. Zodin attacks weak humans, which would explain haunted houses. And yes, apparently we are in an interdimensional war with these certain beings. But yeah, there's also the question of what actually is a Zavonti. Now, this is apparently described as a post-human soul which have experienced the honor of being awarded a human body to dwell in. Again, I feel like this is like a pretty horrifying concept of we're just allowing this random, not form of human into a human body, but apparently it's like this beautiful thing in Sicesca. But also, yeah, there's also the Divin, which is the round we spoke about earlier, and Onision did actually go into quite a lot of explanation about that. Pretty much, it's the astral plane, it's the fourth dimension, and then it also goes on to mention how aliens are a thing, which we also read, and how abductions are real, and just in general, how all of this kind of plays into Sicesca and the lore surrounding it. But with that, yeah, that does actually take us to the ending of everything to do with the lore of Sicesca. But that doesn't mean that this video is coming to an end yet, because obviously there is still some history that we need to go over. And the main thing that I want to go over next is actually the recruitment process of Sicesca. How did Onision actually get members to join this group? Did anyone join this group? And is there any recorded documentation about people joining Sicesca? Well, we're going to get into that in the next chapter. So yes, the recruitment process of Sicesca. Now, if I'm being honest with you, not much is really documented about this whole process. There are a few things here and there that are publicly available right now, which are all available on the Life of Onion website currently. But to be honest with you, there really isn't that much to go through, but what there is available is pretty telling of what Onision was doing to try and convince people to join Sicesca. And the first case of this comes from the Evolution Psychology forums, which were created by Greg in 2004. And yeah, it is once again another website where Onision speaks about topics such as religion. Now, this website wasn't exactly a Sicesca based website. It was more of a place where Onision would have debates with random people on the internet, but occasionally he would bring up Sicesca, like in this forum here, where Onision made a post on the 18th of October 2004 stating, "I personally am a huge fan of Sicesca. It has a website that lines everything out for interested viewers. Are you interested interested. I love that he's kind of like laying this out like this whole operation isn't like orchestrated by him, but I guess this is a good way to kind of trick people into this cult of, oh, I've just heard about this mysterious random new religion and it's really cool. What do you guys think about it? And I imagine he's kind of hoping that people will, turn their ears to that, thinking, oh, some new cool quirky religion? Maybe I want to get involved. But yeah, he goes on to ask people what their religions is, stating that atheism is technically not a religion, but feel free to post it regardless. And when some people, stated that they follow certain religions, Onision immediately questioned that. As you can see here, someone said that they were Catholic, and Onision's immediate response was to question it. He told another person he was raised as a Christian and now resents his family, and that he is so much happier with the knowledge he has. Believe. Now after this, the rest of the forum just kind of turns into your typical average mid-2000s forum post where it just turns into a big fest of debating religion, but yeah, pretty much this was the first example of Onision just subtly trying to convince people to join Sicesca. Now, the second archived post that I found of him trying to recruit other individuals comes from this email here between an individual called Margaret. Now, in this, Onision is trying to convince this woman to follow Sicesca, and he explains that he has sociopathic traits that make him a god. And yeah, it's gonna get as weird as you can possibly imagine knowing that going into it. So it starts off by Onision saying, "Hello, Margaret. From your regards, I get the impression that you do not recall our last conversation. Anti-drugs. How about my critique of your picture? You look like the awesomest girl ever. Church bells chiming, and yet we seem deaf. You freaking jerk. No freaking what? Sometimes, no, often, I have a complicated issue with resisting the blurt of negative comments despite the outcome. I have been excessively called an asshole and a jerk. I really don't like the first one, as the thought of the literal meaning is disgusting to me, but the second is not bad. I am often a sociopath. I find what you described yourself somewhat in this way too. If I am being damaged emotionally to an extreme extent, like if someone is breaking up with me, or someone just cheated on me, or someone just told me I should die or no longer exist, or coming from those who I care about, my emotions will shut down, and I will begin saying things that I mean, but in a stronger sense, more blunt sense. All of the examples above really happened. I told my first love that she no longer deserved my time, and I ended our conversations until I healed. Once due to her drug use, second to her cheating, there was no third. These are the significant breakups that I mentioned. Then there was the various breakups on their part towards me. Most did not matter, but some did, in which I smiled, not feeling a thing, sometimes never feeling at all. And lastly, my ex-girlfriend's sister, of which I began to love like family. She told me that she wished I would die. She wished I did not exist. I smiled and said she was horrible for saying those things. I said she was ugly on the inside and that she did not deserve to look at me. I made her cry many times due to what she had said to me, in a way that makes me a monster. In a way, this makes me a god. Sighed deeply. I invented a religion. One I believe anyone who wants peace towards, not on earth, and less discrimination in our lives would follow. It follows the philosophy that we all come from the earth. It is our true mother, and that any hand which hurts it, disrespects it, should fall back to it so they may be used to feed those less destructive, such as the soil. You should see it too, Sicesca. Most people call me crazy for making it up, so I asked them how their religion came about. It's always started by men like me. Only I am honest. I was not using drugs when I did what I did. I was not in a desert hallucinating when I wrote what I did. I did not base my entire faith off my eyes. In a way, what I believe is barely a faith, it is more a fact. So many people base their purpose on a higher power, something they have no proof of existing. I nearly bled to death in a church of God. No one was there to rescue me but my mother, whereas any proof valid enough to dedicate your life, to de-educate my life in such a manner, this is one of the very few true sins. I am bored of men believing the strength of body equates out to universal dominance. I am bored of women saying girl power, which only turns into girls' disgrace when they put their might up to a man's. Most of weakness of the mind which which leads to inevitable failure of the body, of the spirit. I could never love a woman so small in heart, nor will I ever adore a man who feels women should tremble at his feet. I am telling you all of this, Black Rose, as you want to know more about me. I may shine a new aura to you, no, but I doubt it is an unwelcomed glow. I mentioned before how people have called me a liar. I assure you, those people who have such names, they look into mental reflection when they state such claims, for I'll lie upon nothing but the floor, and that day is the day I die. You inspire me of your wicked smile, Rose. Write me back, your words are anticipated. Goodbye, Margaret. Gregory Jackson. So yeah, that was quite a lot. There was a lot to take in from that, and I really just wanted to go through all of it without giving any of my opinions. But pretty much, yes, in that, Onision, at a very young age, pretty much admits to being a sociopath. He states that he's done a lot of terrible things, berated his ex-girlfriend's sister, made her cry, and was just absolutely horrible to her. And just in general, he kind of displays himself as someone completely up their own ass, to the point of where he literally considers himself to be a god. And this is what I mentioned very early on in this video, of where Onision almost feels like he is a prophet in this religion. He is I guess the figure of what would be Jesus in this religion. He is, the chosen one, and he is here to represent the religion to everybody. But realistically, all I'm reading here is a deeply disturbed teenager that absolutely needs help. But as we've seen over the years, he obviously did not get help. He surrounded himself in a young audience that would believe everything he did was absolutely amazing, and ultimately it led to all of the terrible things that happened over the next 20 years. Because yeah, I feel like as much as this is a very funny deep dive, it also kind of, tells the story of Onision to us. A lot of this really does reflect who he was at a very young age, and some of the things that he has done over the years is truly reflected in this email. Now, there has never been an actual documented response from Margaret. Maybe she did respond, maybe she did join Sicesca, but ultimately, this is the only email we have publicly available of Onision trying to recruit somebody into his religion. But one thing to note here is he does confirm that yes, he has started a word-for-word religion, and that is important given the things that we're going to get into in the future part of Sicesca. But yeah, that actually is the ending of the recruitment process. I wish there was more, but honestly, in terms of documented screenshots, that is pretty much all there is. Now, maybe there is more lying around out there. If you're watching this right now and Onision tried to recruit you into Sicesca, please go down to the comment section and let me know, or email my business email. I would really want to, know more about this, so maybe we could do a part 2. But with this, I want to then move into another old website that Onision used to run called MrOdd.com. Now, on this website, at the bottom of it, you can see that Onision states that his group called the Ghost Skin Association are supporters of Sicesca. And in terms of a group of people that actually support Sicesca, that isn't just Onision, this again is the only publicly documented example of that. But this also does lead us into some Onision lore, which is, yes, the Ghost Skin Association, which was a group of ghost hunters which Onision assembled. And on their website, according to the Life of Onion, Greg would write and take pictures of ghost encounters they had, where Greg describes using a Ouija board and using a digital camera to make sure that the room was clean of energies which could attempt a bodily invasion. And there is a gallery of 28 photographs in which Greg believes he captured spirits, souls, mysterious faces, and auras on camera. And given what we know about the Sicescan lore, it sounds so stupid to say, but given what we know about that, I imagine what Onision thought he was taking a photograph of here is the Zodin, the evil dark energy, and him and his two friends that ran this Ghost Skin Association ghost hunting group were, just trying to document the evidence of these types of things like the Zodin and the Divant. But this actually then connects into even more Onision lore, which I have briefly spoken about in my Onision iceberg video, because it very much does actually seem that Onision has spoken about, dark spirits and dark energy ever since he was a kid. And that's where I want to introduce you to the lore of Gooda, which apparently is an evil spirit Greg claims that he met using a Ouija board when he was 13. He has spoken online about Gooda throughout his late teens and his early 20s. In 2005, Onision wrote about Gooda in an entry titled Met Gooda. At about 13 years of age, I stayed over at my cousin's house with my sister. Someone brought up the idea of a Ouija board. I had never used one prior, but was extremely interested. We messed around with the board for a while, trying to figure out exactly what we could do, who we could talk to with the board. We met a spirit called Gooda. That's one of the first times I ever felt power in negatively evil. I asked Gooda who he liked. The cursor quickly moved towards me. I then asked if he'd ever been inside our bodies. He told me that he was inside mine 19 times. This, of course, does not mean I was possessed, rather that he saw through my eyes. It's kind of creepy to know that, huh? How did I feel? Still inspired? Still curious? I continue to search for that entity. Now, to me personally, when I read this, I just kind of see that Onision, since a very young age, was incredibly disturbed and, actually having hallucinations. But in terms of the Sicescan lore, I imagine Gooda is meant to be one of the zodin, I think that's what it's called, of where this is a dark energy spirit thing breaking through the diver. I keep forgetting the names of these things. The diver, the zodin, there's so much lore that we need to remember. But yes, apparently, according to Onision, this is what Gooda supposedly looks like. He actually made this image himself, and as you can see, it very much does just look like an evil Onision. Which, to be honest with you, I didn't actually think was possible to have an even more evil version of Onision, but, apparently it does. Is Gooda ranking underage girls on, YouTube? Maybe. But in 2017, Onision did actually make an entire video about his imaginary friend Gooda, stating that he used to ask the demon to possess him, and that at an event he felt that his legs were walking on their own, and he assumed Gooda was possessing him. So he'd say, faster Gooda, or slower Gooda, and his legs would move based on what they said. Now, Onision, I'm not trying to, rain on your parade here, but to be honest with you, when you tell your legs to move, they're probably going to move because your brain sends signals to your legs to move, and that's you telling your legs to move. So I don't necessarily think that you were possessed by an evil spirit that came out of the diver that's also part of the zodin. I don't think that. I just think you probably, from a very young age, probably needed to speak to a psychiatrist, which is quite ironic given that that is literally a bit of scripture from Sicesca. But yes, that actually does bring us to the ending of everything to do with the lore and recruitment process surrounding Sicesca. Like, honestly, that pretty much is everything that you could possibly want to know about the religion. I feel like we've been on a spiritual journey, and maybe the astral planes truly do exist, and maybe Onision is just waiting out there for all of us right now to transcend to the fourth dimension. Because the interesting thing is after around like 2007, Sicesca really just disappeared off the face of the planet Earth. It just vanished. And maybe this is because, Onision didn't want to share his religion with us mere mortals. Maybe he thought that we were unworthy. But yeah, it disappeared, and with that, I want to document all of the times Sicesca just randomly reappeared for a short instance in the future part of this timeline going into 2025. So yes, what actually happened to Sicesca? Well, again, according to lifeofonision.com, during 2006, it was assumed that Greg decided to demote Sicesca from a religion back to a personal belief system and not to support the Sicesca website anymore. He removed all references of it from his various sites and turned Sicesca.com into a site for his Onision music and later an early version of Onision forums. But don't worry, my friends and good followers of Sicesca, because it does not end there. The journey of Sicesca must continue.
The great journey waits for no one, brother.
Because in 2008, Sicesca actually reappeared on a biography which stated what Onision's religion was, and he even in December 2010 requested that his last name to be changed to Sicesca, which again is just like an incredibly strange thing. And in 2010, this was actually in the period of time of where Onision was actually starting to become a very well-known YouTuber. He had hundreds of thousands of subscribers at this point of time, I believe. And yeah, I imagine he did this because he was trying to cultivate his audience and possibly, you know, go back to Sicesca and reaffirm himself as this god of Sicesca, and that's why he wants to be known as Gregory Sicesca. I mean, it does sound a bit cooler than Gregory Jackson, but yeah, I don't think he ever actually officially went through with this name change. But given Onision's growing popularity, there's a documentation surrounding the discovery of Sicesca in the YouTube community. And naturally, a lot of people out there were rather concerned that this already controversial YouTuber Onision supposedly was running a cult only a few years previously. Videos began to spread and people began to contact Greg about his alleged old religion. This came to a shock to many Onision fans because up until this point during his new successful YouTube career, Greg strongly stated that he was an atheist and made many anti-religion statements and videos. Greg replied to the commotion on August 26, 2010. He uploaded a video titled Cult Leader Nonsense to his Speaks channel and directed people to look at a post that he made on his Onision site explaining what the Wayback Machine was showing. He said that the site never had a religion and that the site was older than the Wayback Machine made it appear. He said it was 5 years ago and that he was 17 and he was just writing down ideas that he had. But obviously that absolutely is a contradiction to everything that we've read in this video, in particular that email that we just went through where Onision word for word confirms that he actually made a religion and he practically is a godlike figure in that religion. He also lies about his age here, stating that he was 17 years old, but I actually believe that when he created Sicesca, he was between the ages of 19 and 20 years old. Now to me personally, I feel like it's very obvious to why he's lying about this, as it says in that, text. Onision was presenting himself to be this big religion YouTuber. He's a big atheist, and in the early 2010s, being an atheist on YouTube paid very well, and I imagine he did not want to upset his atheist audience at the time by actually finding out that yes, he was running a religious cult. But the lies only continue when in 2011, Onision claimed that he never really followed Sicesca because he did not have enough energy to follow a religion, and he even went on to make more posts in 2013 mocking the religion. Which obviously, as a complete Sicesca follower and purist through and through, this is absolutely devastating news. I followed this religion my entire life. I've just, gone through the teachings and Bible of Sicesca, and you're telling me that the main guy who presents himself to be the god of Sicesca can't even do the due diligence of, actually being faithful to our religion. But, after this, terrible news, there was something weird that happened in 2014 where Onision actually decided to make a trilogy of videos going through the lore of Sicesca, which the first one was titled Life After Death. Now, these videos do not actually exist anymore, but the website that we've been using to pretty much go through everything in Sicesca actually has documented a summary of what these videos actually entailed. And yeah, I want to read those summaries right now. The first video was uploaded on the 26th of January 2014. It was titled Sicesca Life After Death. He starts off the video by talking about Sicesca. He said he created it when he was 17, which we know is a lie. He said he only followed it for a year, and then he became agnostic. He says the reason he quit Sicesca was because he felt dumb and it was an awkward thing to create your own religion. He says because he is agnostic, he believes in many possibilities and would like to play the little religious game and pick out theories he thinks are possible and logical. He says he calls it Sicesca because it is easy to identify, but it really is made up of ideas and theories from other religions. He announces today's topic will be death. He says in his experience, a lot of people just stick around for when they die. He believes some people move on to other planets depending on if they behave properly on this planet or not. He says there are good and bad planets, but Earth is half and half. He says Earth is the middle stage or learning planet. He says some people decide to stay on Earth because there are so many possible terrible outcomes, and it is a good learning experience. Rather than a higher level planet where people live an easier life, as an example, he says if you're a serial killer, depending on how many people you kill, you would either stay on Earth or move to a lower level planet. Now, I feel like this is actually new lore that we didn't actually know. None of this was specified in the Sicescan textbooks, and this is all, a bit of a revelation to me. Apparently, we can now actually travel to other planets if we behave well. So, if you behave badly, you're going to Venus. But if you behave nicely, you might go to Mars. He begins to describe karma passing through lifetimes. An example he gives is if you murdered someone in a past life, you could be killed in your next life. He says the concept of one life does not make sense because not everyone is born with the same blessings and opportunities. He says he believes when you die, you get to choose what your next life is, unless you were a piece of in your last life. He compares it to a competition, but instead of competing with others, you are evolving. He says the goal is the final level, nirvana or heaven. He says you get there by becoming a good person after many trials. In the end, you won't even look like a human anymore. Greg says when you choose your next life, if you choose a hard life and overcome it, you skip ahead and evolve faster. Now, again, this is the issue that I mentioned earlier and what Greg also mentions here of not everybody in life is gifted with the same blessings that people in very fun and nice and loving lives have. Not everyone is born into a rich household. Not everyone is born into a country where there is free healthcare. Not everybody is born into an opportunistic place of where you can do whatever you want to do. Some people have faced strife throughout their entire life, and in some cases, it's not really a justification, but you can understand why someone may possibly do bad things, or there is reasonings to why someone becomes a bad person. So to then punish them in their next life is only going to continue that chain of them obviously becoming a bad person. 9 times out of 10, when someone does something terrible, there usually is a core source reason to how they got to that point of committing said terrible action. I know some people would really like to ignore that, but there has to be a cause and effect. But Greg then goes on to say that it makes more sense to have many lives rather than one, because it's made up of obstacles and balance. He says life is about good and evil. He believes there's a steady progression past evil into becoming completely good. He says as people grow, they begin to look at others suffering and sometimes feel the suffering themselves. He says it's like when children hit each other until you show them it hurts. Greg says people overcomplicate things. There's an explanation for everything, all the mysteries of life, when it is actually really simple. He says he believes on higher level planets there is no murder in some cases. He says, as you get better, you earn living there and life gets better. So effectively, is he saying if you do bad things, you deserve those things to happen? I don't want to be a part of this religion anymore. I am opting out. I mean, we knew Onision was insane, but this is what he actually said on his public YouTube channel in 2014. I believe at this point he had millions of subscribers, and this was what he was publishing to his young, impressionable audience. I mean, this guy just somehow gets more insane to me as the days go by. Greg then goes on to say that the people that stay on Earth after death refuse to accept reincarnation because they are stuck in their religious ways. He says they're mistaken because we should not wait for God, even if he believes there may be gods or God, because it's not about one person. It's about the universe. He says the universe is made up of the physical and the spiritual. He says the spiritual side gives it depth. Otherwise, it's just a dark, cold mass. Greg says that he believes animals can reincarnate and evolve too. He says dogs have a lot of human qualities. Greg ends the videos by saying curse the people that freak out when he talked about religion because it's healthy for society to explore new ideas. He says people are relying on ideas from thousands of years ago, but people are afraid to be religious due to the Bible. Now, to be honest with you, I don't exactly believe that to be true. There are multiple religions out there, not just Christianity. There are so many other religions that people in this world subscribe to. So, no, this doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, this first video obviously gives a complete brand new impression and introduction to Sicesca. And if I'm being honest with you, it's not as fun and wacky as the original introduction. So, Yeah, let's just move into the second one, which is titled The Soul. The next day, on Jan 27th, 2014, Greg uploaded Sicesca, The Soul. He starts off this video by replying to people saying his video implied that if someone is the victim of a crime, they did something bad in their previous life. He says that was not what he was saying. He meant if you do something bad, but you could be subjected to it in the next life. He says it's just a theory and it's not the victim's fault. He says it's a way for your soul to learn the pain it caused. He says if a dog bites you and you smack it in the face, the dog will associate biting with receiving pain. He says he's not saying it's okay to hit your dog. Is it me, or did that analogy just make no sense whatsoever? He begins his discussion on souls. He says souls are like us, but they are not fully aware. He says when you die, you see what you want to see. He says you can maybe see your dead relatives, or maybe you can follow a light and sit in purgatory until you realize your views were wrong. Again, this is so cult-like. You're going to be in purgatory because, oh, your views are wrong and not in line with Onision and Sicesca? I mean, this is just wild. Then you can reincarnate and choose your next life. He says he believes human souls can go in human bodies or somewhere similar. Greg brings up Alzheimer's. He says our bodies are only vehicles for our souls. So when you get a condition that makes you forget people, it's the same as an air conditioner giving out. He says this theory explains why people with Alzheimer's forget and become someone they are not. He gives an example. If someone has a good soul, but your brain makes them verbally assault everyone, it's not the soul's fault. He says your soul is a more superior entity than you. He says old souls don't remember their past because their brains and society can't handle it. He asks if society can handle itself if they accepted the concept as the truth. He says it's a shaky concept, but it has ground. He asks if people would murder each other if they knew this concept was how it was. He says maybe we would make Earth like a heaven and destroy the Earth's purpose as a learning ground. He says he thinks the planet would be better off if everyone accepted reincarnation. He says, maybe all of your suffering has an explanation and you'll move into a better place. It's like money in the bank. He says that's Sicesca's stance on souls, and he encourages people with questions to contact him on his website. Now, firstly, his logic here is absolutely flawed in the sense of there are tons of religious people out there that have committed heinous crimes. Not saying that every religious person has, but every human being, every person who is part of a group, in those groups, there are always going to be people that have committed crimes. Even with the belief that that will send them to hell or somewhere else, they've committed those crimes, and I feel like what he's saying here really is not exactly a reflection of reality. Yes, in an ideal world, if people had a belief system based around morality, they wouldn't commit heinous actions. But the reality is in, modern society, in previous society, there's always been murder. There has always been crime. None of it is justifiable, but the existence of religion or cults never has ever prevented that. But then we move into the next section, which is called Angels. On January the 28th, 2014, Onision uploaded the final part of the trilogy called Sicesca Angels. He starts off the video by asking his viewers if they understand the concept of guardian angels. He says he was only taught about it briefly as a child, but he thinks it's a cool concept. He says Sicesca is not so different to the concept of guardian angels. He says the difference is that instead of angels being created and sent to you by God, it's created by yourself. He says you can choose your guardian angel. You could even have a goat. He says that its purpose is to defend you in the spirit realm. He says you think about something that makes you feel safe. He says like when you wake up and have sleep paralysis, you should imagine your guardian angel taking care of negativity. He says you can create a 20-foot tall guardian angel because you have the energy to do this. He says it's a deep subject how the spirit realm envies living bodies because they have more power and energy. They are also protected by their shell. He says that's a whole different subject, and he gets back on track. He says the guardian angel protects your state of mind and sense of safety. Greg says what's cool about this concept is that he has interacted with the spirit realm and they described people's angels. He said that he did this with blind writing. You close your eyes and spiritually write. He says you can also use a Ouija board. He says you can ask them or ask someone about your guardian angel. He says the ghosts can see your guardian angel creation. He encourages everyone to think about this concept unless you're uncomfortable. He tells everyone to think about something to keep them safe. Now that finally does, and I know I've already said it before, but that actually does bring us to the ending of all of the lore surrounding Sicesca, but in this timeline from 2004 to 2014, what's interesting is Onision has actually seemingly flip-flopped between being a part of Sicesca to, distancing himself from Sicesca, but in 2014, he randomly decided to actually tell everyone about Sicesca, and based on what he was saying in these 3 videos, it's very evident to me that Onision was still following the practices of Sicesca, and he was actively encouraging his audience to become a part of that cinematic universe. You too can become part of the universe and religion where it's ruled by people like Light Yagami, i.e. Onision. But yeah, honestly, I'm not really shocked. From what we can read here, this is a very unhinged individual that actually seems to believe everything that he's saying. Now, do I personally believe that Onision believes any of this? No, I don't. I think he's deeply disturbed, but I think from a very young age, Onision has craved power and attention. And leading a religion, leading a cult is the perfect way to get that attention, to have your followers looking up to you and worshipping you. That is something that Onision, which we've seen for years and years now, absolutely desires, and Sicesca is a perfect example of that. Now, interestingly enough, in 2018, Onision did actually write a book called Reaper's Creek, and in this book, Onision is kind of presenting himself in this very godlike way of where he can see certain things that not everybody else can, and as much as it isn't, necessarily stating that this is about Sicesca, to me, that was really the last possible reference of Sicesca. But yeah, 2014 was really the final remnant of Sicesca actually being named by Onision. And now in 2025, where is Sicesca? Where are the followers? Where have they gone?
They are living among us, average citizens, average heroes, quietly and anonymously continuing to make the world a better place.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I did just want to use that clip because Incredibles is like the best animated movie of all time. But yes, Sicesca in 2025 is seemingly dormant. It seemingly has gone into the shadows, and it very much seems that the Zodin have won this war. But no, it doesn't exist anymore. At least, as far as we know, Onision isn't speaking about it anymore. I'm actually in Onision's Discord server. I've been lurking in it for around 4 years now, and from what I can see, there is never every mention of a cult or Sicesca. Now, you could definitely say that Onision's audience that is still somehow remaining is definitely very cult-like, and maybe they have private conversations about Sicesca, but as far as I know, his cult and his audience went until around 2014. Yes, he did try to indoctrinate people into that religion, but ultimately, where it is in 2025 is pretty much it doesn't exist anymore. Thankfully. But yeah, that actually does kind of bring us to the ending of everything finally. I absolutely did not expect this video to be this long, and I feel like I say that at the ending of every single video. But yeah, this has been Sicesca, and I feel like this has been one of the wildest and wackiest journeys I've ever gone on. You often hear the talk about people starting cults and, having dedicated audiences, but this is an actual, real, genuine case of a YouTuber that started an actual cult that lasted for over 10 years. It's one of the most fascinating things that I think I've ever seen, and I would love to know your opinions on it. If you yourself have ever had any affiliation or interactions with someone that claims to be a part of Sicesca, please let me know down below, or please get in contact with me. The best place to contact me is my Instagram at iNabber, and if we ever do get any contact or more information about that, then I will certainly make a follow-up to this video. But yeah, that finally is the ending of that. Thank you so much for coming along to this amazing journey, and I really do hope that you enjoyed it. I really do like doing these weird and wacky videos every now and again. I do enjoy doing the, regular up-to-date what's going on in the world videos, but it is sometimes nice to just sit down and just go through some sheer, utter nonsense, and this was another beautiful example of that. So yeah, thank you so much for coming along. Please follow my podcast, which is Over the Pond, in the description down below, and also please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video. It would help me out more than you know. And please just comment something down below to help me in the algorithm. But yeah, that is that. Thank you very much. I'll see you in your next one. Peace out and have a lovely, lovely week. Bye-bye.